Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I Man here from the Block Runner MetaZone, Roby and M-Scribe, and today we got a conversation around the metaverse.
Conversation. Let's have a fireside chat, dude. In the absence of a fire. You know?
So we've there's definitely not a fire here.
No, not at all.
But yeah, we've started a podcast 5 years ago now. Yeah, 5 years.
Is it like official like anniversary or something or what?
No, it's in April.
Okay, we're getting close to the 5-year anniversary, dude.
Yeah, and the majority of it was spent talking about the metaverse.
It's true. Like a pretty large, I would say 60 to 70% of our online presence has been focused around our own personal understanding, coming to grips of what the metaverse is, first of all. Where are the opportunities? Where are the technical problems, dilemmas, economic conundrums, like all that stuff.
Yeah, and this is during a time where nobody cared about the metaverse. It wasn't even like a real thing, right?
The only real thing it was like
movies.
Yeah, like video games like World of Warcraft was like a good prototype representation of what the metaverse could be, right? And I had personal experience with that. So like the concept of a digital economy space, a digital existence layer, whatever you want to identify it as, like it made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, we grew up playing video games, so we knew what it meant when blockchain came into the picture and you could own digital assets. We're like, this is it. Like now's the time for the metaverse.
Yeah. So NFTs were also like kind of like circulating and gaining its momentum and appreciation around that time.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of NFT days, it was like super faded.
Yeah.
Nobody saw any reason why like you would purchase these digital ownable collectibles. It's like
and then Zuckerberg changed their name, Facebook, to Meta.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden Metaverse was like the prime conversational piece for the entire planet for like good 3 months.
Pretty much.
Something like that, yeah.
So yeah, this is something that's always on our mind, like persistently throughout every single day. Like everything we do from a development perspective or like what it is we're interested in, what it is we're working on, and especially in context of Web3.
Yeah.
In our minds, it's always been like, and we're about to kind of like introduce you guys to somebody else who's thinking along the same wave patterns as us, I guess.
Yeah.
In our minds, it's always been like everything we're doing here, experimentation-wise in Web3, it's all going to aggregate and channel into what is the thing that's called the metaverse.
That's right. Yeah, and it's interesting. We have numerous conversations with Benny from Track, and he said the same thing. It's like everything that I'm doing is for the metaverse.
Yeah, it might not look like it now. It's like, no, what you're actually doing is building like infrastructure for DeFi protocol.
It's like,
right?
nope.
No. Well, then, some GameFi for a game where it's like, no, I mean, yes, but all
no.
these things kind of like add together, right?
Yeah, right. And so now this video came out from Herman Narula speaking at the Web Summit in Qatar.
Yeah.
And this is this year, and he's the CEO of Improbable. And he's built a pretty cool technology with M Squared.
Absolutely. It's technology that we're actually leveraging in our own development for Bitmap OS. So, yeah, we have a lot of like interest in kind of like, focusing on direction for that company, first of all.
Yeah, and he says a lot of the things that we say. So, he introduces like this idea of like fulfillment engine. And it's not obvious that throughout our entire time, we played video games. We spent a lot of time on, like World of Warcraft, things like that. And we were able to extract something that you wouldn't expect from these experiences.
It's true.
And this extraction, this unexpected extraction of value is what's going to be happening predominantly in the metaverse. And it's not obvious.
Correct. Yeah, and it made sense to us just because we were like naturally appreciative of these like digital experiences. Like it was natural to us to find fulfillment in game space, right?
Yeah.
It was great. I had some of my most memorable moments in my life were spent in the virtual worlds, you know? Yeah, I don't regret that in any bit, Yeah,
I remember playing Counter-Strike and I got 8 headshots in a row.
Wow.
I still remember that.
Wow, dude. 8 in a row.
I completely dominated that team by myself.
See, that's up there in your like personal fucking Maslow hierarchy, right? Like that's you self-actualized.
Yeah, that's right.
8 headshots in a row. Big, wow. Me, it's like fucking, I don't know, killing Anixia for their first time, shit like that, memorable dungeons and quests and stuff. So
yeah,
those are good things. But the metaverse. So we have here a link to like a multi-trillion. We've talked about this a lot in the past.
Yeah.
When like the metaverse awareness was like first starting to permeate post meta rebranding or whatever, pivoting. All of a sudden, all these like institutions started coming out with these multi-trillion-dollar assessments and predictions. They're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Where did that come from, dude?
Yeah, and it really comes from, I guess, their interpretation, which is what our interpretation is like an entire digital society forming.
Right.
In this digital layer, right?
Yeah, that's whenever we're starting to transcend our understanding of like the purpose of virtual space, game space, whatever. It's transcending beyond just like this entertainment fulfillment thing.
That's right.
You call now. So Herman Narula has like contextualized this reality into something very more meaningful, right? It's fulfillment engines, right?
Yeah.
And that applies. I mean, if you think about it from a humanities perspective, like it takes a lot to kind of like fulfill us individually.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just like how engaged we are with our screens.
It's true. Well, it's not only that. Our fulfillment capabilities are based off of physical reach, right? It's like you could be in a country where it's not set up for any fulfillment of any kind, right? And so that's a problem, and I think that's a problem that the metaverse actually solves. I mean, you the minimum requirements is just internet access, which is becoming a little bit more ubiquitous.
Correct. Yeah, like this is a deeply studied like tenet, I guess, within psychology. Human psychology is that those hierarchy of needs or whatever, right? Like true deep fulfillment. It comes in like layers, right? So, but obviously the first most pertinent ones to like our survival mechanisms is like our physiological needs.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like it'd be nice if I could breathe, It's like, so if you like live in like industrial China or something, you're like, fuck, I'm already fucked.
Yeah.
I can't even get past this first layer because I could barely breathe out here. So like, there's no way I'm gonna be thinking about like
fulfillment.
Yeah. So it's like those are the first layers of and like you're saying, just by geopositional a coincidence,
randomness.
Yeah, randomness of birth, you could just be fucked from the get go.
Yeah.
So therefore, like that really sucks, right?
Yeah.
So you got to get through these layers of physiological needs, and then just like financial, monetary needs. Again, a large segment of humanity is just really screwed.
And in addition, right, there are macro conditions that are encouraging this direction, right? We have AI, we have automation. These things are encouraging us to have a little bit more time, which is supposed to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's supposed to be a good thing that we can automate a lot of the mundane activities that we used to do.
Yeah.
Right. But without the metaverse, it's a bad thing. I think with the metaverse is a good thing because now we can spend time figuring out our fulfillment initiatives. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what's the big deal here with the metaverse. And you guys definitely need to watch this video because Herman spent a lot of time on this speech. And it was well executed, well written.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing really contextualizes the meaning of the metaverse.
Yeah.
And so like how do we apply this? Like, so what? Who cares? Right. So how do we do something about this?
That's true.
It's like, well, that's why we have Bitmap.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is a thing we've been talking about for months, right? Since it first dropped in June. And Bitmap is a consensus mechanism to achieve some digital framework to build out the metaverse.
Yeah.
Right. In this case, the framework is using Bitcoin data to generate a virtual landscape.
Pretty much. Yeah. Just like there's layers to like human fulfillment and such like that psychological needs all headed towards like personal actualization. Like the construction of the metaverse kind of like has a parallel to that too. There's going to it comes in layers, right? And in order to get to like any kind of metaverse actualization state, like where these beautiful, monologues by Herman Narula actually start to hit and like become provable things, we have to lay down these like very primitive layers first, right? So like you're saying, so we can have that consensus around people who are actually like chasing this dream to collaborate and work together.
Yeah,
like, that is the most fundamental thing. And that's what happened in the early era of the internet, right? It wasn't until those little pockets of communities of developers who were like, they were all chasing this dream, this obscure vision of an interconnected information layer, right? That's like computers are communicating across the planet. That's neat.
Yeah.
Right? They could see the future of that and how that's going to unlock a lot of like benefits for humanity.
Yeah, they needed standards.
They needed some foundational layer to bring all these pockets into like one cohesive ecosystem, right? And like begin the construct of that. And it took many more years to like add these new layers on top of that.
Yeah, and a lot of the protocols that were used to build the internet weren't the best protocols. They were just the best protocols for the time.
And they achieved, you know, that consensus, right? We've seen this many times. Look at BRC20s. It's objectively not the best thing.
Correct.
For like a fungible token standard, right? But as of right now, it is like the most liquid and highest market value technology primitive for adding fungibility to Bitcoin, right?
Right.
So like the consensus was formed around that. Will it change in the future? We don't know, but like this is how humans typically do things, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it will change. It's sort of like the first is never always the best.
Mm-hmm.
It is just the easiest narrative, and that's why you see every crypto project is the first of something.
Yeah.
Every single tweet out there, this is the first of its kind, even if it's not.
Yeah.
Right, because it's such an easy narrative, and you don't have to think much.
Yeah.
But the harder narratives is like, this is actually better.
It is harder. Yeah, because, exactly. You could piggyback on just that first narrative. Therefore, I don't have to do any due diligence on any of these other, like, emerging technologies, because that requires work, and it's tiring, and it makes me frustrated whenever I can't just understand it after the first read, things like this.
Not only that, if you're like day trading, right, so to speak, and this first narrative is so easy that it's a token that you know that others will easily understand.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's a token that's like a little bit more complex, it has probably a less potential to explode. And so that's why first is so easy.
Correct.
But when it comes to the metaverse, it's a little bit more complex than that. And Bitmap being first of its kind, that's a big deal, but Bitmap is more important other than it being first.
Mm-hmm.
It has achieved that consensus layer. There's over 30,000 holders for this asset.
Yeah.
And then if you go look at any NFT project, all NFT projects have less holders than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this provides us, developers, creators, protocol builders, a consensus layer to build on top of, right? And that's sort of like the genesis of DMT, and like kind of contributing to this ecosystem of like block data, right? That Bitmap is built off of.
100%. Yeah. So these components are coming into place, and it's laying forth these tools and foundational primitives. That's just like an early phase and step, right? So actually, what gets produced from that, like anything of valuable, tangible substance, is still to be, decided, right? And because these things take time. This is not like, we deployed DMT, and almost instantly, like we upgraded it with the UNAT integration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost instantly, we're seeing this Cambrian explosion of application. Like, why? Because it's much easier to kind of roll out the valuable products on top of this protocol, right? The 2D imagery and stuff like that. These are things that have been done and executed very well in the past.
Yeah.
But like from the 3D metaverse perspective, this is a much more convoluted arena, right?
Yeah, there hasn't been an explosion. I mean, the only explosion may have been Bitmap, but
well, yeah, I'm talking more specifically from like
a creator's standpoint.
Yeah, like what are the creators actually going to deploy?
Yeah.
Right? That is the real question mark. We don't know. Like we've seen non-fungible token standards protocols emerge in the past, and like again, Cambrian explosions of content, ownable content, proliferate from that. But we've never really seen it from the metaverse perspective, is my point.
Yeah. I totally agree.
And we've always been focused on that. Like that's always been our thing. It's like, what is going to be that killer app for the metaverse?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, which is really, really hard. And it's harder because we have to develop like the frameworks to even enable that.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you develop those frameworks, maybe nobody uses it. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's
maybe humanity's content with just like, slinging JPEGs to one another for the rest of time. And like that is the extent of like what we do in this virtual space.
Yeah.
What do you think? What is the probability outcome of that?
I would say if that's like the end game, I give it a 0% chance that that's end game.
Yeah. I would give it like a 1 or 2%. There's a chance like we just like stop here for whatever reason. I don't know. Just
stop,
like,
stop all innovations. Just sling pictures all day.
Yeah, like what's happening right now in this like the crypto Twitter influencer space. Like people are well aware is like this next like NFT cycle is coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think now people are aware is like, yeah, you know what? Adding utility to these things is actually a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like it makes these less attractive, less marketable, I guess. Like all we really need is just a cool picture and like a cool story.
Yeah, but I feel like that's just a market segment that just wants to capitalize on like people demand. Capitalize on demand, essentially.
Yeah, I think and it's a narrative for now just to kind of like get the wheels churning again.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, because I remember during the peak in like the tail end of the NFT cycle last time around, it's like people were expecting utility NFTs to be like the saving grace. Like that's going to be what brings us back next time.
Yeah.
So here we are. Here's the next time.
Yeah.
No, right? It's looking like based on today's landscape and pictures, like we're just going to kind of like, well, we're going to redo it again.
I feel like it's like that for a number of reasons. It's like barrier to entry. It's like to be able to do art. I mean, you don't have to be the most skilled person out there in general, but I think with DMT, you do have to know a little bit about scripting, right?
That's true.
So that is a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So the art that you see on DMTs is a little bit more sophisticated, right?
Yeah, it requires actual technical knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? And not every artist, we have personal experience with it. Not every artist like has that technical ability. So it requires like a collaboration again. Now you've got to partner up with somebody with that technical background and you're forming basically like an actual application. That's kind of like what we're getting to is like these are living applications.
Yeah.
These artworks, they seem like like static 2D images like we're used to, but really these are living things that have back-end requirements.
Yeah.
Unlike most art, most digital content that has been like kind of traversing in Web3 up until now.
Yeah, correct.
But this whole application concept goes much deeper. Like this is just the prototype beginning phase of content applications.
I think the underestimated word that you said there was collaboration.
Okay.
Because that is ultimately what's going to be required for the metaverse.
Fuck yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Because the metaverse is going to require applications, so you're going to need devs.
Yep.
Right? It's going to require a building layer, which you're going to need land for that.
And you're going to need like beauty and like rendering, which is going to require the artists.
Yeah, that's right.
You're right. And then you're going to need the people to come in and like basically like support the whole economics of all of this.
Yeah.
Which is like that's you, DGens.
Yeah.
You guys
that's
are
right.
out. That is your realm of participation is like actually facilitating the inputs and outputs of like the digital economy.
Yeah, and then you need technology to facilitate the transactions between all the parties, right? Like for example, if I develop an application and you're the one with the land, you're the one with the land with all the action, right? Because you're a big name, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I want to deploy my application that I purchased on a marketplace onto your land.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be some sort of technical understanding that when I deploy on your land, an action occurs on my application, that you get a cut of the transaction because you're the landowner.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the protocol builders, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the bones of what the metaverse ends up being. And that's where we're at right now. So that's why these other actors in this very collaborative digital economy, they don't really have their place yet. Right? Yeah. It's not because we still have to lay out the bones, the infrastructure in order to like facilitate everything you just described.
Yeah.
Once that's all in place, and it's on the way, it's happening.
Right.
DMT is part of that. We have BRC 420s out there as like a content standard.
That's right.
Just to kind of like, bring everything cohesively into like this this displayable state at least, right, within these virtual environments. As far as like the actual payment architectures and stuff, that still needs to be figured out.
Yeah, and that's really complex just because we're dealing with like Bitcoin and like these fungible tokens that aren't really all that fun to deal with, like from a technical perspective.
That's true. You're going to run into all the things that people have been predicting we're going to run into is like a non-scalability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when it comes to like a microtransactions within like a digital economy, like that is one of the biggest.
Yeah, you can't do that on Bitcoin.
Yeah. So yeah, we got some hurdles for sure.
Yeah.
We always have had hurdles, but nonetheless, it doesn't detract from like the value proposition of this whole damn thing, right?
Yeah. And what's crazy is that in order to move the ball forward, you have to take the little steps that get traction.
Yeah.
The little steps are what count. You're trying to get into this complex $1 trillion ecosystem. But by the way, they're predicting in 8 years, it's a $3 trillion asset, right? This is Metaverse concept.
Yeah.
And so in 8 years, like if you're making the investment today, I mean, you're looking at a 30x over 8 years. And as an investor, you're not going to get better returns than this on any market.
I totally agree. Not just an investor, like just anybody who's participating or who's
like
involved.
developers, people, creators.
Developer ROI, just brand presence. If you're going to get a 30x in your brand value because you've decided today to have like some presence within this like growing sector of technology and like culture and all this stuff. Yeah, within the next 8 to 10 years, you've 30x the value of your brand, you know, all that stuff.
That's huge.
It is huge. Yeah, so like that is the opportunity at hand. And yeah, Bitmap, as far as we could see, given our 4 to 5 year, you know, history of like really trying to analyze like how this thing is going to kind of come to fruition, this seems like the best starting point.
Yeah.
It's why we're so committed and focused on developing on top of it, and why we expect down the line, like once we actually execute and deliver what it is we think needs to be done, not just us, hopefully others are also tackling these technical dilemmas. Once these bones are there in place, like we're going to see the creators come in and just shock the world. Like this is the shit we've all been waiting for.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we saw with DMTs. Like as soon as we set it up, someone saw us like, hey, you know what?
People are legitimately shocked with what's being made.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
I'm pretty shocked too, dude. Like, there's some cool shit already that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, there's cool shit that I want. I normally don't want art, dude, but I want these things.
Right.
It's so weird.
That is the cool part. You put out the bones and the infrastructure, and the creators show up and they deliver every single time.
Yeah.
We have experience with this in Decentraland. We've seen it happen time and time and time again. You know, so the bones are coming. For Bitmap, and if you still are struggling with like why all this matters, definitely watch that speech.
Yeah. It's only like
12 minutes, I think.
12 minutes. Yeah. It's really good. Like you're just watch it. It's really good.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for us. If we miss anything on the Metaverse side, let us know in the comment section below. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.